Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Kyler Murray wants to stay with the Arizona Cardinals and win a Super Bowl, but he is also looking for the team to do its part by signing him to a long-term contract. Now, Murray's agent said this and more in a lengthy statement Monday, weeks after rumblings of discontent between both sides emerged from Arizona. It said Murray entered a bad situation and turned the Cardinals into a contender, and now it's their turn to give him a deal in line with other top quarterbacks. According to his agent, Eric Burkhardt, actions speak much louder than words in this volatile business. It's now simply up to the Cardinals to decide if they prioritize their rapidly improving 24-year-old, already two-time Pro Bowl quarterback, or rather if they choose to financially prioritize committing to other areas and continuing to merely talk about addressing Kyler's long-term future as their quarterback. All right, for more on this, let's bring in senior NFL insider with CBS Sports, Jonathan Jones. JJ, I'll start just by getting your reaction to this lengthy statement from Eric Burkhardt.
Yeah, well, listen, he's releasing this statement as everyone is about to descend on Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine. I have a flight just a few hours away, and there's going to be meetings between player representation and, of course, NFL teams and those executives. Then there is going to be the rumor mill, and the rumor mill are all the steakhouses and hotel bars there in Indianapolis where all the media will be gathering to get all the little nuggets of information, and then the next morning you will have the reports from those previous evenings. And so Eric Burkhardt is going ahead and getting in front of this right now and letting everybody know that Kyler Murray wants a new contract from the Arizona Cardinals. This is not the first shot that we have heard in this battle for a new contract. Of course, the first one was a very quiet one where Kyler Murray scrubbed the Arizona Cardinals off of his Instagram. That was very obviously back then a point that, hey, I want a contract extension. Then we heard from anonymous sources via an ESPN report that he was immature, that he was self-centered, that he was a finger pointer. And then they said, well, we're going to smooth things out. And then the owner, Michael Bidwell, went on radio there in Arizona last week to say, listen, we want him as a part of our long-term plans. I love him. There's no question about all of that. And now here we are today with Kyler and his representation getting that statement out there right now before we get to Indy so that they can control the narrative and put the ball back in the Arizona Cardinals' court.
JJ, I just don't understand what the purpose is of getting this statement out there. If both sides agree that they want to remain, one wants to keep and one wants to stay, I don't understand what the impetus is behind putting this statement out, which has, let's be fair, some very strong language, which I'm not a finger pointer, says Murray, but it points some fingers at the Cardinals in terms of saying, hey, if you want to be stuck in mediocrity, then, hey, let's focus on what we're doing. But if you want to win, it's going to be with me. I don't understand what putting this statement out does for Murray at this point in time.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I would somewhat agree with that. Certainly from Kyler and his representation's point of view, it's getting out in front of it at the start of free agency where they would love to go ahead and get a longer-term deal done, but as you enter free agency on March 16th so that you know what you can do with the rest of the Cardinals. That's the way that they are trying to frame it right now. Let's go ahead and get him done. Let's get him paid so that we can fill in the rest of the roster knowing that this is your quarterback of the future and exactly what he is going to cost you this year, next year, and years beyond. The issue here for Kyler Murray and his representation, just like any quarterback or really any player who's coming off of his third NFL season, there is very, very little precedent for an NFL team going ahead and inking that player after a third year to a contract extension before the start of free agency. Just go back to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. That was a 6-year, $258 million deal. That didn't get done until the summer. That's usually when you see those deals get done for the third-year quarterback going into his fourth year or the fourth-year quarterback going into his fifth year. They very, very rarely, and I'm struggling to think of a time where it has happened, where a quarterback after his third season has gotten paid just before the start of the new league year. So their leverage here is trying to say, remember Arizona Cardinals, how bad you were before Kyler Murray came in here and rescued the franchise. And certainly he does have some impressive accolades, right? The Offensive Rookie of the Year, and in years number 2 and 3, Pro Bowl appearances. But he doesn't have that runner-up to the MVP that Josh Allen had that allowed him to get a deal that averages $43 million per year. I mentioned Josh Allen's contract. That's a 6-year deal worth more than $250 million. We may be talking a little bit more for Kyler Murray, like a Dak Prescott-like deal, a 4-year deal averaging above $40 million. And I say that because Kyler Murray very clearly wants another bite at the apple. This has been about money and sort of security, if you will, but not long-term in terms of years security. It's about the financial commitment that Eric Burkhart and his representation that they are talking about. And so we don't have any particulars here in this very, very lengthy statement because they frankly don't want those particulars out there. But we can sort of piece it together. You can look at the market and you can say Kyler Murray very likely wants a deal that looks something like a 4-year deal around $43 to $45 million per year. The Arizona Cardinals have very, very little motivation to get that done here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, when you look at some of the other quarterbacks now and throughout history that have had numbers that are better than Murray's, who have had accolades that can eclipse his, and they didn't necessarily get the deals that they wanted at the time that they wanted them. They would get it eventually. And I mean, Murray's done some great things, but you know, numbers are numbers, rings are real. So how much pressure does this put on the Cardinals now with this statement coming out? Are you expecting the Cardinals to come out with another statement, or are you expecting them just to get to work on working out a deal?
I can't imagine that the Cardinals really want this to continue to play out in the public. This does work in favor of Kyler Murray, ginning up as much support from the fans and the public that he can possibly get, because frankly, that's his leverage. That's the way that NFL contracts, especially rookie contracts, are written up. The NFL team has your rights if they want to for really the first 6 years of your career. You look at the 4-year rookie deal that's slotted, and he was the number 1 overall pick, and he got, I think, around $35 million. Then they're going to trigger the 5th-year option, and so that's going to cost around $29 million in the 2023 season. Well, the Cardinals don't want that immovable number right there. They would much prefer to get that down, and that's something that they can get down with a long-term contract extension this summer, which would be the normal time, or maybe even next year. Remember, Lamar Jackson, a unanimous MVP while he is representing himself, still does not have his contract extension. And so as you look around the landscape of the NFL, Kyler Murray wants to get paid right now because obviously he's a smaller quarterback. He's dealt with injuries. He certainly dealt with injuries this past season, and he wants that security. He also, when you talk about leverage as it relates to the Arizona Cardinals, it's very interesting how they frame it, right? And Jeremy, you talk about it earlier where, hey, remember how bad things were before I got here. Look at how much better things have gotten each of the past 3 years, and we're only going to go up here. Look at the trajectory. So go ahead and get in on this early so that we can go ahead and take care of the future of the Arizona Cardinals. That may very well play with some fans, but the Arizona Cardinals, again, they should not be or feel any more pressure right now than they did a half hour ago before this statement came out. I just don't see anything getting done, but I do appreciate if I were Kyler Murray and I wanted to get paid, my representation going out there and doing all he can from a leverage perspective, of which you have very little right now, to help me get paid.
Well, the good thing is, JJ, I mean, when you go to the Combine this week, you're going to have some interesting conversations at some of those steakhouses. Jonathan Jones joining us to talk about breaking news this morning. Kyler Murray's agent releasing a statement saying 3 things, okay? He absolutely wants to be a long-term quarterback. He desperately wants to win a Super Bowl as you look at his numbers from the 2021 season, and pointing at the Cardinals, saying actions speak louder than words in this volatile business. We'll see how the Cardinals respond, if at all, over the course of this week.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.